brilliant sky. In that sky, there is filled with it, as I use example, as filled with energy of the wind. The sky is filled with the energy of the wind. And one of the beginning of the wind is moving, and first instant become the object of the next instant moving of the energy of the wind. So then that subject object had subtle notion of the grasping, or subtle thought of subject object as very small grasping. And that is the starting point of then continuation of grasping. This is very subtle. The first, again, this open mind is a brilliant sky. Okay, if we don't use now wind, look to our own mind. First, when you stay in the present status, we don't see any mind. This is this is dharmakaya mind, I think, as every teacher said. And when we stay there is a subtle, there is thoughts coming. So many, very subtle growth, then thoughts begin coming. And that is the energy of this dharmakaya mind. So this beginning time of that subtle energy moving, first become the object, and the second become the subject, and there is. When you have that division, then that is grasping. Thought comes. Then grasping is we holding onto that. We hold as subject and object. That is then grasping or clinging, and that is the start point of the delusions.
So is it always the I that begins to see that there's a something?
Not necessarily I grasping is called is not grasping the strong one, according to the teaching too. But the clinging is is really the subtle obscuration, and that's what you must have heard. There's two egos: the self-ego clinging, and ego of knowledge, or the ego of dharma. Or the ego of dharma, ego of the individually, there's two egos in the teaching set. So this ego of the dharma is the grasp. Ego of the clinging is this ego of dharma is the subtle clinging. You understand? So that's I think I can talk. But again, this is subtle, very subtle. Okay, now, beginning of the grasping. Beginning of grasping is the beginning of the delusion. That's it then. Beginning of grasping, and that is so subtle, very tiny in the teaching set. So, that's really starting, very subtle. And where the teaching explaining that how that happened is then subtle, that energy of thought. The first one becomes the subject, object, and second becomes the subject, and we had grasping in the sense of the grasp. And then in Kondazambu prayer also teaching said that there's that means there's subtle panic also happened. Very small panic happened. And then that made, then through that chain reaction, then all this delusion begins, and that's the beginning of the grasping. So its grasping itself has no base. It is only the display of the mind, and therefore we can claim, and therefore nature of the grasping, nature of the dharmakaya, and nature of the wisdom, basically all the same. They no really difference. The grasping is just only one reaction of the mind, and then we're holding onto that.
Is it possible to say a little example of that?
What?
Is it possible to say a little example of that? Like, can you say from your own experience a little time when you see that?
Any examples? Any examples? I'm trying to, what I said, the first and second, those are my kind of examples. Those are really my examples. But what I will say, scientific way, if I can say, I should learn a little bit of physics. But what the physics will say, how this samsara, I'm not samsara, how this world begins. How this world begins. Really, I'm not going to kidding what this is. How that this become, before this world, this big one, how this way started.
Matter and antimatter.
So that, where the antimatter and that started. I'm not joking.
They don't.
Where the matter, antimatter and antimatter, how that started. What they explain. This is the same way. All start from the emptiness. All start from the true nature, the openness, dharma dhatu. So start from dharma dhatu. That really, that is the example. So I will now I'm going to say, ask physics what this is. But physics always goes to the limit. That I think that's it, because always trying to catch with mental status. Mental status. Don't go further. They're always trying to. Then they are, can't say that, but then they're going wrong. But if you break through that, then that's really, that's it. That's it about the mind. Mind is similar. And what now they're saying what's called? I heard there's called dark matter or something. Dark matter, or the dark matter of the world or something they're talking. Those things. Black matter. Black matter or the dark matter, all that. So this is what it is. And therefore, in the Buddha's teachings, the nature is the same. Outer, inner, and of course, in the Buddha's teaching, all is started from the mind. It's started from the mind. But nature is the same. Therefore, is inexpressible. There's nothing to go more further than that. It's inconceivable when you reach that level. But however, inconceivable that is, then the energy is flowing. It's all that. How that is working, all that, and then this Nagarjuna's teaching. For example, all the Mula Madhyamaka. All those Nagarjunas are using the logic, reasoning to explore the dharmakaya nature, and which is called Panjaparamata or Madhyamaka nature. Madhyamaka, which means what? It's the middle way. Nature is not extreme. It's in always balanced. Balanced in the middle. That middle means balanced status. So this is what really the nature is. This. And that is the inexpressible. Yet, even though there is an inconceivable state, but everything is flowing, everything is system. Even is flowing, even the instant that never lost its original quality, or the nature. Nature never lost nature's qualities. Therefore, every conception, chain of conception thought is never lost the original summit Buddha nature. What the teaching says is all, and therefore is enlightened status. Always that's what the teaching says. It's all is enlightened. Only we mishandle it. Our individually mishandled, and we grasp. Grasping is not natural. Clinging is not natural. If we clear away that, there's nothing need to do anything. Everything is perfect. That's what it is. Okay, thank you. Then we start.